Dorothy. Nice, very nice to have you here in person now.
Yeah, the new in person. Great to be here with you guys.
Yes, this is the new in person that you can have. And thank you so much to be here and talk with me. Since March, I started to talk with some specialists in talk for rehabilitation and gynecology. Steve told you about what we are doing there, and this is very great because when you try to use pessary with your patients, it's very hard to find the size and the type, the shape. So thank you so much to share with me what you are doing and why do you start to work in this area with the women healthcare?
Why? It's interesting, right? Because I get that question a lot. Because in our today's world, why am I as a guy focused in women's healthcare? I don't know how far back I should go, but my grandma did raise me for a couple years when I moved to Canada when I was a little kid, and after graduating from university as a medical device engineer, I worked for a decade in urology diagnostics, so developing out urodynamics machines, the measurement of pressure and volume inside of the bladder and urethra to better diagnose incontinence. I watched my grandmother go through stage 3-4 prolapse. Knew some of the best doctors in the world. She failed multiple pessary fittings, ended up because of her cystocele getting urosepsis. 3 emergency surgeries later, within a year, put into a home. So during that time, I kind of felt you could say powerless to even help my own grandmother, even though I knew some of the best doctors. And I thought, after the last company I worked for got acquired, why not reinvest some capital and try to change the way pessaries are done? Because to me, what frustrated me the most as a care provider for my grandmother was that I couldn't get a real engineering, quantified, measured sense as to what her prolapse issue was. And in parallel, the therapies to me that are available for prolapse, it's either a trial and error off-the-shelf pessary or a fairly complex assortment of surgeries that she didn't want to do. And I think from a market standpoint, off the shelf trial and error, $50, $100, or thousands of dollars of surgery. There's nothing in between. And a few years back, I was doing my MBA with a school where at the University of Toronto is where the modern revolution in AI was created. A professor called Jeffrey Hinton created the architecture for modern AI. And the business school I was at was specialized in, developing out AI technologies into business. And due to my background in diagnostics, combined with the AI, combined with 3D printing, I thought we could deliver personalized care to gynecology or for prolapse and incontinence, similar to that's already been developed for, orthotics, audiology, customized hearing aids, and also dentistry. 2 years later, we are now, running multiple clinical studies in Canada and aiming to drive to market in the next few years. So why? So the question why, in summary, I guess like my grandma, number one. Number two, I had the technical expertise and also the business and clinical connections from my last job. It just kind of made sense. I felt like I was kind of born to do this in a way, so we'll see. Jerry likes that, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Like it's the title of a Western novel, Born to be Free.
Yeah. Well, and that's like the American dream is like freedom, right? But what is freedom? We're never really truly free except for how we choose to perceive our work. And I chose to try to do something, to help women like my grandma.
It's phenomenal.
It's nice, very nice. But I believe the share can agree with me. We stopped to talk or to read about pessaries for a long time. We just started to talk about it again in the last 5 or 10 years. Why do you think we just stopped to talk about this?
I think there's a fair amount of reason, right? I think number one, society is changing. A famous urologist once told me, the question isn't whether or not your pipes are going to break; it's whether or not your house falls down first. And as more people live longer, World Cancer Day was yesterday. There's been a 35% reduction in deaths in the US over the last couple of decades in males for cancer and 20% in females. So people are living longer. And, quality of life, especially your job, quality of life is king, right? Like what is a person without their like pelvic organs working, whether that's sexually, incontinence and whatnot, right? And with that focus and quality of life, I think women are seeking care. And I think the whole news around mesh and stuff, people are looking for alternatives and a way to manage as they go forward. I think that's the new push, right? Whether it's conservative therapy, preventative care, the idea that taking a pill is going to solve all your problems isn't like, that's not reality. That might be what big pharma sells, but that's not the reality of the world, right? So
Yes, because for a long time, the mesh was like the solution. You have a very simple surgery, no consequence after, and a woman will be okay. And it's not our reality now. We can
just like
see.
just like mental health, right? Like the opioids. Oh, just take a pill, you'll be happy. No, that's not.
Yes.
As as a sexologist and pelvic floor physio, everybody's complex. So yeah.
But do you think it's a challenge to show the woman that it's not so easy? They need to put themselves in the treatment. It's not like I will put a mesh and everything will be okay.
Yeah, I think that is a driving human need, right? To feel normal. And I think part of what pelvic organ prolapse does is it makes people feel not normal.
Yeah.
And the problem with that view is that like, our bodies are like mechanical systems. They need tune up, they need help. And we're hoping to bring essentially data, AI, 3D printing, and modern ultrasound to improving and personalizing or providing more precision to an age-old technology such as pessaries. So I think you know part of what we hope to provide is increased awareness and normalization, because it is normal. Things sag, as women age, and there's technology for other parts of the body for it. And I think it's time that uh, more investment dollars, research, technologies, products are available for women with pelvic organ prolapse, because it's a part of aging. It's a part
Yes,
of
this is what I try to say to my patients or to everybody. This is normal. This is just part of our body.
yeah, it's
And
a part of your body.
everybody, what do you have there? Just part of our body. Yeah, it's not easy. We can talk about the orthosis for the knee or another part of the body. But
Yeah.
when we talk about the vagina, pelvic floor, this part of our body, oh, what's that? Do
Yeah.
you work with this?
No, and even sometimes when I work in this field, and sometimes when I say vagina, I still laugh. Like it's part of our society. It's part of our culture where, all of our bad words have to do with, sex. Like it's in that part of the body, it is, it is what it is. So.
I realized I am having trouble in my social media because I use a lot of vagina, penis, words that I wrote, and I am having problem with the Instagram and Facebook
Yeah.
because of this. we cannot say vagina.
Yeah.
It's weird. This is one of the words that we cannot put online.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
put a lot,
Started, guys, don't get me started.
Yeah. It's a normal part of our body. I think,
Yeah.
you know, it's, you know, unfortunately, prolapse is a consequence of like the most beautiful thing that a human can do is create life and have a child, right? Like it's, you know, the beauty of having a child comes with, oh man, you might get prolapse by having a child.
Yes.
Right? But
You might get
Not-
incontinence.
that's life. That's part of what life is. So
it's not always, but to have
Yeah.
a baby can have to give to woman a lot of consequences. And do you think pessaries can substitute surgeries, pelvic floor muscle rehabilitation, or this is something to put all together to treat women?
I think overall it's complementary. You know, I think for me, what I really disliked about the care pathway was really the fact that, you know, all I could get as somebody that knew the field and in detail that my grandma had a stage 3/4 cystocele. What does that actually mean from a mechanic engineering standpoint? What is the actual pathologies? What are her symptoms? It was really hard to get detailed information because the information really is there but doesn't really exist. And in my mind, you know, the all therapies are complementary. The question is, how do they fit in the care pathway? And from our option to start, just by personalizing pessaries, we can, you know, in our measurement system, you know, the question is, you know, is most likely before surgery, consider, you know, doing a conservative therapy. And what's interesting, what I find lacking in the female field, which is in the men's field, is the whole field of, you know, essentially active surveillance and doing it well. So, like I mentioned earlier, men dying from cancer has drastically reduced in the last couple of decades. And that's partially because of the way, you know, prostate cancer and BPH, or enlarged prostates, is now managed. There is a process where, you know, stage 1 diagnostics is fingers. So, you know, feeling the prostate, which is kind of like how the gold standard for diagnosing prolapses right now, fingers. Stage 2 is then ultrasound, PSA, biopsies, different things like that. And then the men go into what's called active surveillance, because if they go into prostate therapies too early, there's a risk of, I think it's 100% risk of incontinence for a year and a 70% risk of erectile dysfunction. So the question isn't when to do surgery, or the question isn't if to do surgery, it's really when. And I think that option is kind of lacking for prolapse because there isn't a real good way to measure and track how prolapse is getting worse. In parallel, the conservative therapy for it to manage it on a conservative end is trial and error with this device that looks like an O-ring, you know, that I would put into a sink, you know, so yeah.
So in my opinion, I am physiotherapist in this area since I was in the school because my father is a gynecologist. So I always work in this area. Yes. And I believe pessaries can help women. Even when I'm treating them, sometimes they can use pessaries to work out, to do efforts during my treatment. And I hope they can one day do not need the pessary, but if they still need, they can use. And even a lot of women cannot go to the surgery because of another disease. And sometimes they have nothing to do. And like I told, use the pessary that we have now, it's not easy to them because they don't fit.
Yeah, they don't fit. It's hard to insert and remove. So from the data right now that, you know, on average, probably somewhere between a third of women fail pessary fittings. half will stop using them within a year or two because they either don't work, they're uncomfortable, they cause vaginal discharge, they're hard to maintain, i.e. insert, remove, it interferes with their sex life, or they decide to do surgery. And then, you know, the ones that select surgery, there's obviously the risks and costs associated with that. And from our end, you know, we're looking to create a platform to bring modern technology to first provide a better conservative therapy or support device, a gynecologic pessary, so something more custom. And in parallel, you know, the platform we're developing from a data standpoint could potentially help, you know, unify so that these separate these separate therapies, physical therapy, pessaries, and surgery, can be looked at as a holistic thing. You know, we can share data, we can kind of look through how to personalize or improve the entire path.
And what has been your big challenge now? Because you start your startup and 2 years ago, and it came COVID, everything changed. How is this for you?
So I would say our biggest challenge right now is getting data. We're lucky enough to have some clinical collaborators that have sent us large retrospective data sets, but proving out our technology through clinical studies has been a challenge. Obviously, you know, our target population is sometimes a little bit older, and hence, you know, going to a hospital or a clinic to get scanned and going through a clinical study is much slower than it originally been. I'm not happy about it. My investors definitely aren't as happy about it. But we are grateful that, you know, in Canada, we've been able to get some support from grant organizations such as IRAP and different organizations that have supported us through this time. So although our clinical studies haven't moved as fast, our product development has moved, I would arguably, faster because we're not doing the clinical. So my engineers are building technology. So it's been an interesting kind of balance there. I think the big challenge of COVID is for us is getting through our clinical studies, and then B, you know, as things go back to normal, is, you know, driving towards fundraising and you know, for our next stage of growth.
And do you have an idea when your device will be in the market, and how much does it cost for the population?
The cost, it will depend on the market, and I would say that we are aiming for market approval depending on which country. I think depending on the investors we pull in the next year, we could be fully global. I would say covering regulatory approvals most of the world by 2024. I would say that our initial market approvals could be as early as mid to late 2022.
Okay, because the certification FDA, CA, in Europe.
FDA, CE Mark, Health Canada, SFDA, China, you know.
And visa in Brazil, yeah, it's not easy. This is a tough process. It's very hard.
And for us, that vastly depends on the partners, investors, and distributors we bring on. You know, since we got the article published on us on engineering.com, we've had distributors from the Middle East, Asia, and Europe contact us because they're interested. What's interesting about pessaries is that there's a global market report that stated that, you know, globally there's over 10 million pessaries sold per year.
Wow.
There's not one person that I know that I used to work with in industry that would have made that estimate so high, you know. So I think it's an under-recognized thing because, you know, Urogyn's provide it, community doctors sometimes provide it. There's a whole lot of providers and like a weird mix of people, you know, and physical therapists, obviously, that provide pessaries. So, yeah.
Yes, I hope you can do this fast, because I really believe this can help a lot of women. And we need this, like you told, we are getting older, Thank you. And I hope I can be there, but it's not easy for some women if they don't have support. And it's not easy to talk about the our intimacy, and
Yeah.
a lot of women take a lot of time to say to the doctor they have in trouble in their vagina or they have some discomfort, and to have something more easy to them to use it would be great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
No problem. It's funny you mentioned sports, right? Because imagine 50 years ago, like, or 100 years ago, women weren't even like, if women wanted to even play sports, that wasn't even possible, right? And what's interesting is, I think society is opening up about the importance of sexuality, having our bodies function fully, and living a good quality of life and what that means. And for me, like, I'm kind of grateful for the position I'm in to try to modernize this part for women in general. So yeah.
Yeah, both of you are talking about a topic relating to how women feel about their bodies. So I had a friend of mine write a song so that people could say the word vagina without, and
Yeah.
we're right now waiting for someone to write the music to go to the song, and then I'll give it to all of you guys. And we can use it to help reduce all this, anxiety around using the correct terminology.
Yeah.
Sherry, do you have something to say to us?
There's zero doubt in my mind that at the top of the leaderboard is destigmatization. Zero doubt in my mind. I mean, that's the big closet door on all of this. And realistically, I'm a bit frustrated that because I'm everybody that knows me knows I'm blapping all day, every day about talk about it out loud. And it's frustrating how slow the pace is in that. I mean, I think back to, I've done tons of digging back into the whole breast cancer campaign, how they did what they did. And I was actually a little bit surprised to find that even in the early 70s, you couldn't say the word breast out loud. You couldn't put it in print at that point. And I don't remember it being that shrouded, but it was. And so when we're taking a step above and beyond that, I mean, we can bounce in the middle here with the erectile dysfunction campaign. And I mean, that got blown up because Jay Leno, somebody at Pfizer leaked to Jay Leno about the little blue pill, and he blapped it. And actually Pfizer got called on the carpet for it because it was too soon. It shouldn't be announced yet, but it changed everything. And it so destigmatized men's erectile dysfunction imagery. It's like, you know what? It's just health. Get over it. It's just health.
But Sherry, you have to realize the renaming. It used to be called impotence, which means without power, as if all of a man's power came from his penis. And now it's just erectile dysfunction. Like, oh yeah, it's just like I have my pinky doesn't work,
Yeah, right.
It's no big deal.
What's the big
But they
deal
also got the vice president, Bob Dole, to be the spokesman.
Yeah.
So they got someone that men respected to say, yeah, I have this problem, and if I can talk about it, you could talk about it.
Yeah. And I have been, it's been suggested to me a zillion times by a zillion people that, why don't you find a celebrity? I have been chasing celebrities for 10 years and they won't even talk to me. Some of them even have talked about incontinence. I've got one that's a half an hour away, was a speed skating Olympic gold champion, and she talked about incontinence. I'm like, I'm on it. I can buzz over to her house in a half an hour and give her the spiel, ready to rock. And I sent her, I write pretty compelling letters, put a copy of my book in there, shipped it off, heard nothing. So the bottom line is with when we talk about incontinence, I think the imagery is somewhat removed from the vagina. It's just incontinence and it stands alone. We know it doesn't. We all know it doesn't. But that's the way it's visualized. And when we talk about prolapse, we're talking about the vagina itself, and boom, that signals right back in our face again. So getting everyone on deck to talk out loud about it effectively. So we're talking not just advocacy, we're talking, I mean, certainly all of the urogynecologic community talks about vaginas, but they don't do a very effective job of doing it out loud. And so, on the gynecology side, they're so poorly educated that they're not really they don't have the capacity to share the information appropriately. And it's a matter of a tag team. For those of you who are innovators, who are really thinking outside the box, and you're doing all this fabulous work, we need all your voices in the picture here too. And that's, I love this combination of people you have on this meeting here, Laira, because it takes all of us. We all have to get out there and get this information out in public. And I have watched, I've had my fingers on the pulse of the women in our community all this time, obviously. And in the beginning, when I first started doing what I do, it was silent. It was dead, cold, silent. There was no dialogue. There was no talking out loud. And I'm kind of like, blah, 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 blah. And my family thinks I'm nuts. They still think I'm nuts. You know, it is what it is. But the bottom line is I have been able to have a bird's eye view of that shift in energy inside our spaces. Now, granted, we still have a closed patient support space, so they feel secure in there. And we do a very aggressive job of screening and making sure we keep that space secure until women are ready to talk about it out loud. However, we're seeing more and more women all the time who are saying in our closed space that they are now talking about prolapse that they've experienced on their open Facebook pages. That's a movement. That's grassroots movement. And that's what generates the shift. So once we get everyone else doing the same thing, and it's not just the patients that need to do that, practitioners need to do it, and researchers need to do it, and academics that teach the doctors, and industry, you people that are innovators and designing these products and protocols, everyone's voice has to be not only at the table, out loud, open in public, talking about this stuff. And now we're seeing a real empowered movement. That's what's coming. I don't think that's what's coming. I know that's what's coming.
And I think, Sherry, like once you get your first celebrity, they're going to start rolling in. It's going to domino. That's and from our end, you know, you even look at, you know, we talked about the male side and whatnot. You know, there's been billions of dollars spent in marketing around that, around rebranding men's health, because it isn't about impotence. It's about a dysfunction of a specific component. And I think that is, you know, having prolapse does not make a woman any less of a woman. Like it's a specific function. And, you know, I'm hoping that, you know, from our end, the creation of a better way to measure this so that we can apply AI technology and create customized gynethotics, it becomes more of a science. Because even just the word pessary, you know, one of my advisors, like, pessaries sound very pessimistic. You know, it's like sounds like a last resort. It sounds like a last resort of a thing. And from our end, you know, we're just trying to bring science to it, you know, and hopefully that'll bring investors, marketing, you know, all the things that go with the work that you're doing, which is, you know, on the patient advocacy side. So, yeah.
So Laira, you know the anatomy probably better than most of us. As far as I know, the vagina itself has no muscles, that all these muscles are pelvic floor muscles. So why don't we take the vagina out of this discussion? And just like impotence was renamed erectile dysfunction, maybe there's a way of renaming this so that it's just a muscle function. It's like, you know, my arm hurts, my belly hurts, you know, it's not a sexual thing. And then that take away the shame.
I've been thinking about that, and I think that's actually why it was rebranded as pelvic floor disorders as a group, instead of like, you know, yeah,
Eurogynes just rebranded themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am not sure if you agree, because I love the name of vagina. I love to say vagina. I love my vagina. I don't want to stop to say vagina.
Yeah.
I want to be allowed to say vagina with no problem.
I'm glad we all love vaginas on this call. Yeah.
In the US, it rhymes with Carolina.
You know, penis, 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 vagina, vagina, vagina.
Yes.
Whatever.
What's the
They're
problem?
body parts. Yeah.
I hope one day we can just say vagina and nobody will look at me and go, you're crazy. Shh, you're in a restaurant.
What's really amusing is when I work
back to the change in men's health, right? That took a full generation. What I'm optimistic about is that you know, a lot of my friends know that I'm doing this, and all of the ones having kids now are like, they'll just talk to me about stuff that I never thought I would be having conversations with my friends about. But I'm like, I'm very grateful. Like, thank you for telling me about your vagina. You know, like you're my friend, and you know that I know, so we can talk about this not in a, you know, in a stigmatized way. We're just talking about it as a fact because it's a part of life. You know,
Right.
sex is part of life.
I
Peeing.
started my
pooping,
day
part of life,
today.
you know? So,
I have my 3D models,
oh,
and
cool.
I have my
Oh, yeah.
friend that print this for me. And I said that they sent to him a message. I need 3 clitoris and 3 penis. And he told me, yes, great day. So what's the problem?
Yeah.
I hope one day we can talk more about intimacy, and most of for women, we can talk about pleasure, clitoris, vagina, and there is no problem because this is just part of our body.
Yeah,
Right. Right.
absolutely.
So thank you, Derek. Thank you so much. Please let me know you are moving. If you need something from me, your clinical trial, if you need something from Portugal or from Brazil, I'm sure I can help you find more women, or I don't know. If I can help you, please let me know.
Yeah.
I hope you can finish this soon and you can have this in the marketing. Will be great for women. Thank you.
Thank you, Laira.
This was a lot of fun. So thank you.
Great to see everyone.
Stay in touch.
too.
Yeah, great to see you guys too.
Take care. Take care of your
Bye
vagina.
bye. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Stay safe, everybody. Cheers.
Bye